So there is a very interesting and disturbing story in the news right now here in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, about an alleged scammer. And what makes her story a little different from a lot of scamming stories is that she threatened to kill the family that did not send her money. So apparently she set up some kind of scam where she pretended to be the bank. I'm going to put a link in the description box about the article. And then when the family realized that it was not from the bank, they called the bank, they did their due diligence, they decided not to pay her. She threatened to kill them. And so she's been arrested. She's from Florida, my home state, and she's been extradited to Georgia. And she is now in prison because of this. I'm going to use this particular article as a springboard to talk about ways to protect yourself from scammers. I have done a lot of videos on this because number one, people try to scam me every day. Every day I get phone calls, I get text messages, I get letters, I get people even knock on my door, y'all. Now that's kind of stopped lately, but I used to have that. People working overtime. And then last year I shared that by the grace of God, somebody or a group of people were not able to get money in my name. They had tried to apply for several loans and open banks accounts using my credentials. And by the grace of God, they were unsuccessful. And I want to talk about some ways that you can protect yourself and you can protect your family. While this person threatened to kill the family and they did not comply, there are people who have lost their lives. And it is frightening, it is disturbing, it is so unfortunate. And I'm going to just share some things that I use and that I've encouraged other people to use to make sure that you don't fall victim to these people. So, welcome to Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Cherie Hardy. I pray that you are having a beautiful day. Remember, God has given you some gifts, and one of those gifts is the ability, the power to create. You have creative power. And when you need something in your life, you need joy, you need peace, you need health, whatever it is, God has given you that ability through free will to create those things for yourself. And don't forget that, on a cloudy day, create sunshine. On a day when you're feeling like you don't have enough, you can create gratitude. On a day when it seems chaotic and everything is just going crazy, you can create peace. It is a choice, and I'm getting ready to um, finish a book that I wrote that is gonna help you with this, give you some strategies. But let's talk about this story about this scammer, and most importantly, how do you protect yourself and your family members? Peace and blessings, and thank you for tuning in. There's an old scripture, and it has circulated around the world, and it is the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of money. We need money, and there are people who are willing to work for their money, and there are other people who are willing to steal from the people who work for their money. I've been working since I was a teenager, and everything I have worked for. I have gotten whatever I have through blood, through sweat, and tears, for real. So I'm not going to give away my money, or I'm not going to let people take my money easily. It's going to be a fight, and it's going to be a big fight because I'm not going out like that. Last year, someone at the end of the year, they tried to steal my credentials and use my credentials to get some bank loans and get money in my name. And this happens a lot. And I want to say this, and this company does not pay me. I'm just saying that they help me, so I want to just spread the good word. But I have Credit Karma. Got the story about how I got Credit Karma is just very interesting. I won't tell it now, but I will tell it one day. But I would have never gotten Credit Karma if this real estate agent had not told me to get it, because I'm always suspicious of everybody, right? So I got Credit Karma, and because I had Credit Karma, I was alerted that some loans or some bank accounts were trying to be opened in my name. And that was spooky because these people or person tried to open up several accounts in my name. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned that a lot of times the banks are in cahoots. Some of these banks are working with the criminals. And I want you to think about this for a second, because recently there was another incident of a scammer trying to get a couple to pay $12,000 through Bitcoin. And this couple was trying to pay it. I'm in all about this, but the couple was trying to pay it, and the store clerk intervened and made them realize there was some suspicions there. But here's the thing about that: who knows you have $12,000? Who knows how much money you have in the bank? The only people who know how much money you have in the bank is the bank. And that is why when I talk about money, I always say get money, but you got to protect your money. You can't just get money. You have to know how to protect yourself. And again, everybody, you got to change your mindset. Everybody's guilty until proven innocent. There are people who are going to be righteous and they're not going to touch your money, but there are some people, they see that money, and for them that is a way to get money, take your money that you've worked for, that you've sweated for, and you've bled for, and cried, and all these things. And so you have to make sure that you protect your money, but be very careful about the banks. Always check your accounts on a regular basis. And let's get into these three ways you can avoid from being scammed. And the number one way is simply do not talk to strangers. Do not respond to emails, text messages, phone calls, letters, unsolicited people. Don't answer your door. Just don't respond. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I do, when I get these really weird emails and text messages, now I do it. I send them a prayer. It's a real prayer that I pray to the Most High God about people trying to steal my money. Because I ask God to disempower them and to disable them and prevent them not only from stealing from me, but stealing from anybody, because it's wrong. And I used to have these nice prayers where I would say, God, help them come up with ideas to earn their money where they don't have to steal. But people know right from wrong. And there's a point when you know that you have other options. And really, the other options are probably easier than you trying to steal somebody's money. But the number one way that I feel that I've avoided people from being successful is I do not respond to their email. So you email me a weird email, I block it, I delete it. Now there's one company that keeps sending me these fraudulent emails. I save them because I'm about to contact the FTC. Okay. So I'm going to have a lawsuit if it keeps going. But anyway, I will sometimes only respond with a prayer. But other than that, I don't have curiosity. You don't have to be curious. You don't have to say, well, try to find out about it. You don't have to do an investigation. If you know you have not done any business with that company, and even this is another weird thing, even when you've done business with a company, they will create fake emails to look like the companies you're dealing with. And in this case, that I'm talking about, the lady who was just arrested, the girl pretended like she was with Wells Fargo. So you may already have Wells Fargo, which the couple did. And that's why I wonder, how would someone know that this couple had Wells Fargo unless somebody at Wells Fargo told them, or unless somebody is connected to them? You wouldn't know how much money. Nobody knows how much money I have in the bank. Nobody knows what banks I have, because that's private information that I just don't share. Maybe my daughter knows what banks I have, but she doesn't know how much money I have in the bank, and she doesn't know any details about that. That's why I say you have to be very careful about the bank. But the number one thing is never ever talk to strangers. Never deal with strangers. I get emails all the time. Some of them are those commonly emails, known emails, like they'll say something like, well, you owe for a traffic violation. Um, are you trying to sell your home? Like, I get a lot of those kind of emails. What I do is I screenshot, I block, report spam, and delete. And now, at first, I wasn't screenshotting, but I said I want to screenshot because if I need to do a lawsuit or something happens and I end up, get hurting somebody, let me just make sure that I've, have some evidence here. So I now screenshot, I save these text messages. Sometimes I'll get a text message like somebody trying to engage me in a conversation. I don't know you. The last time that happened, I got an email, a text message, and it said, "You, capital U, apostrophe R, home, question mark." Now, first of all, I don't deal with anybody if they don't use correct English or word. I don't use anybody that's texting me with text language, like teenage language. So, number one, I don't know this person. This number is not in my phone, in my contact list. A lot of people, and this is very interesting when you read these stories about people being scammed and people being killed. I'm going to talk about a couple of cases. They are interacting with people that they don't know. Do not talk to strangers. Do not respond to text messages. Do not respond to emails. Do not do it. Do not answer your phone. You don't have to, because that's what they use to engage you. There's a couple, and I didn't read the article, I just saw the headlines, but I will try to find it and put a link in the description box. It was about a couple that they were scammed out of thousands of dollars, and they got killed. The man was pretending like they were Tom Selleck. And why these people would believe them, how Tom Selleck would just randomly contact them and have a relationship with them, I don't know. That's not going to happen. No Oh, by the way, when I was on social media, this is before I've just had one social media, which is Facebook. I remember somebody, I was on Twitter. This is time I had a personal Twitter account, and somebody would be contacting me through my DMs, and they would say like, "I'm a doctor." Okay, yeah, and I sold books. So like, okay, you interested in a certain book? And no response. But they kept emphasizing, I don't know why, that they were a doctor. And I don't know them. And so I just blocked. I don't know, why. And, we're not going to interact. I don't interact with strangers. Now, I have done that in years, like maybe 10 years ago. I have done that. And I'm telling you, there are people out there, and they work overtime to catfish you, to get your money. For some people, it's like a sick joke. And I think someone tried to catfish me, and it was just, I was a brunt of a joke. Okay. So, but let me tell you, that's the number one way. This couple, as I said before, was killed. And I didn't read the article, just read the headlines. Another situation, I did read this article. There was a lady, an elderly lady in Florida, and she was missing. She was missing, and her son noticed that she had some suspicious withdrawals from her bank account. Then his mother, who was a veteran, by the way, I hate this when it happens to senior citizens, and just like the couple was a senior citizen, this woman who was a former veteran, retiree, her son noticed that she was missing. Her bank account withdrawals were being taken out of her bank account, and then later, sadly, sadly, she was found deceased. And I think as of today, this happened at the end of last year. As of today, I don't think anyone has been indicted or convicted of her death or her murder. She died under very suspicious circumstances, but it's because probably she talked to strangers. I'm telling you not what I think, I'm telling you what I know. I watch a lot of these stories about scam artists, and I've had a lot of people try to scam me, and they could, because I don't even deal with them. People text me about selling my home, and I suspect that there's somebody that I am dealing with that's giving them my number, because I don't just give out my number either. But the reason why they would never be able to get anything from me is because I don't deal with them. Now, a few times I would text back again, because once I started learning about the law and I started contemplating if I wanted to pursue lawsuits, I started texting back saying, "Remove my name from your contact list." I started doing that a couple of times. And then at one time, before I had a chance to block it, they had texted me back like, "Okay, well, call us." And no, that's not going to happen. So that's the way you can avoid being scammed. You'll never be scammed. And then here's a second way. So a lot of the scammers, the way they get people is they will pretend like they are a legitimate company that the person has. Whether they pretend like they're the bank, whether they pretend like, let's say you were trying to buy a house or sell your house, they'll some kind of way pretend like they are a real estate agent. They're going to pretend, and they'll call you And when they call you or text you or email you, it'll look legitimate on the surface because after all, you have this company. What you never want to do is call back that number that they give you. You never want to respond to the email that they give you. You want to go directly to your bank or to whatever company you are working with, and you want to contact them. Don't respond because they set these people, and this is for they're so creative, but in a diabolical way. They work hard, but they work hard for evil. All the energy that they're spending putting into trying to scam you and trick you, they by then they could have helped themselves. They could have created a job. They could have for themselves. They could have built a company. Like they use the time that they've been given on this earth to do evil instead of good. God is a God that gives us free will. Every single day we have a choice to do good or evil. If he forced us and put a gun in our heads, a spiritual gun in our heads, or a spiritual knife to our throats, he wouldn't be God. He'd be like a man. He'd be like a thug. God is a true gentleman. He gives you the choice. And what I love about that is that choice reveals how you see him. And his love that you have for him is not forced. You're not loving him because you're forced. You're loving him because you've chosen to out of the desires of your heart. Because God doesn't force people to do bad. When we look at the state of the world and people try to blame God, it's not God. God does not steal money from people. God does not rape people. He does not abuse children. He does not kill people. Men do that because they take the free will of God and they misuse it and abuse it. And God, I'm sure, is probably grieving, saying, look at the people I've created. If they would just use the free will that I've given them to do good and to demonstrate love. I was trying to say good and love at the same time, y'all. But to do good and demonstrate love, the world wouldn't be the way it is today. We wouldn't have the wars. We wouldn't have starvation. We wouldn't have homelessness. We wouldn't have all these different issues. Because human beings will not use free will in the right way, you have a state of terror and evil rampant all over the earth since the beginning of time. But I know this sounds so big and it sounds like utopia, but I believe it's possible that we could have heaven here on earth. That we don't have to leave in our physical realm to experience heaven. That it could be right here if we would start to use God's free will. Instead of using it to hurt people, we use it to help people. And that's what these scammers do. When when the people tried to sell my identity last year, I was in a really good conversation with my younger sister, and we were talking about, well, how do you pray for these people? Because I send them a prayer. Like when they send me something, I send them a prayer. And my prayers have changed over the years. I pray much more like David prayed in Psalm, and that's the kind of prayer like, God, avenge me. Okay. Now I'm torn because sometimes I do feel like, okay, these people may be desperate. I'm not in their situation. Maybe they don't feel like they don't know they have choices not to do it this way. So I start praying, God, give them ideas. Show them how they can make money and not steal from people. And again, it's a free choice. And it's just like free will, they have to do, right? You have the free will not to give them your money. Again, number one way you will never be scammed is just not talk to strangers. Over and over and over again, the reason why you hear these stories, and there are millions, these people are siphoning millions of dollars, and in total probably billions, is because somebody's talking to them. When I hear about these romance scammers, I just marvel because somebody literally sent these people money. You asked me for, I remember a guy, and God rest his soul, he just died. But when I had my business in the mall, this man who was one of the security guards, he asked me for money one day. One day he asked me for like $5. And I've never, really given money to men. And I, generally don't, if you're not a family member, but I've never really given any money to a man just coming up and asking me for money. So the first time I said, well, maybe God is testing me, and I gave the man the money. Maybe he was starving or something. He didn't have any money because I know they didn't make a lot of money. He was an older guy who probably squandered all his money when he was young. And this happens a lot. People get old. They didn't prepare for getting old. They squander their lives, they squander their money, they don't prepare, and they make a whole bunch of bad decisions. And then when they get older, they're limited in what they can do. They can't continue trying to scam people and use people. Make a long story short, I gave him the $5 and he told me to pay it back. And so eventually he did pay it back. And that's a part of the whole scam too. Like, oh, I'll give you a little money, then I'll pay you back. So it looks like, okay, this is not a person who's trying to scam, right? So he came to me a second time and he asked me for money. And I told him, I said, look, I don't have any money. I said, I'm not a bank. I don't have money. And I don't know, when I had my business, people thought we were making money. We made money, but we didn't make enough money for me to, that's why I had to leave, because we didn't make enough money for me to live off of and maintain that business. Made a lot of good memories and I'm grateful, but I wasn't making any money. So I told him I wasn't a bank or anything, and I just gave him the money. I said, "Here, you take this money, but listen, I'm not a bank. I don't have the money to give you." And after that, I could tell he was a little resentful. But I just told him, I said, "Look, I don't have any money." That's what I tell you. I don't have money, and I don't have money to give away to people like that. Make a long story short, there are people who just continue to give these men money. And when you have these, what they call romance scammers, there are people who have given in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I remember there was a case in Atlanta, and this lady, she was scammed out of some huge amount of money. Like, it was unreal. And the guy was pretending like they were going to get married, and this man had a wife and had kids. But the idea that you got to give somebody money to be in a relationship with them is insane, that you would do it. And she did it. And we, in my house, we talked about the fact she probably wouldn't have even given a homeless person something to eat, but she gave this man, I mean, it was like tens of thousands of dollars. The way you can avoid any of this ever happening to you is simply do not talk to strangers. Block, screenshot or save some of the messages if you want to pursue a lawsuit, and then delete. That's it. There's a story about this mother who catfished her daughter. And I remember my students coming to me like, "Miss, did you see the story about the woman who catfished her own daughter and blah, 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 blah?" And I was like, "No." I said, "But she would never be able to get me, because the moment I got an unknown text message, it is blocked, it is deleted, it is screenshotted, and it's screenshot, is blocked and deleted. That's it." Same thing with email, same thing with phone calls. We don't answer. I have two phones, my home phone, we just don't answer it. Very few people call the home phone, but if they do, I will see who it is. And if they leave a message, I can vet out. I don't call the number they give me. I can vet out the number myself to see if it's a legitimate number. But I don't call back that number. And if I do, I'm not going to call back from my phone. There are some people that call the house. It's kind of funny, but they'll call. And then when you call them from an unknown number that they didn't call from, they'll say, "Call back from the number we called you." That's the scam is sophisticated, but it doesn't have to be you. So that's number one. Don't talk to strangers. If anybody asks you to give them money, it's already a scam. You're not a bank. If you're not operating a bank, you don't have any money to give them, because number one, most people, even if they work hard and they have money, they don't have enough money to pay their own bills and pay somebody else's bills. And then paying their bills, if let's say I've helped people before, like, okay, somebody called me, some of my former students, they're in a desperate situation, I've given them some money one time, and I know they're probably not going to be able to pay me back, but I can't continue to give them money because I don't have the money to do that. And then I'm not really helping them. That old saying about, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man how to fish, he will eat for a lifetime. When you give people things, it does help them. If they're in a very dire situation, it helps them temporarily. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't help them long term. And I remember one time, one of my former students, he had texted me and he was telling me he was in a dire situation. He'd only text me, he wouldn't call me. I wanted to talk to him, but he wouldn't talk to us. I don't know who texted me, but anyway. And I sent the money because I looked it up. Okay, that was his legitimate email, and I did it through PayPal, and it was his business, because it was through his business. And so I said, okay, he's in a really dire situation. I did some research. I found out, okay, he's in a dire situation. But this is what got me. Right after that, after I texted him a little $50, it wasn't a lot of money. Let's say $50. He texted me again, said, can you send more? And that's when I said, enough is enough. That's when I had to block. That's when I had to screenshot and delete. That was it. That was because I don't have it to give, and that's what you got to tell people. Again, number two, never ever call back the number that they give. That's the way that they can get you, because they make it look like some of these people really are sophisticated with their phishing emails. They'll make it look like it's legitimate, and then I know, like, I get a lot of phishing emails, and they'll use a company that I use, and they'll try to make the emails look legitimate, and they're really not. So you never call back that number, you never email them. In this case, the one I'm talking about that just happened in Georgia, the people were smart enough to see that the email was not from Wells Fargo, that the email was from Yahoo. And that's how some of my phishing emails are. On the surface, it'll look like it's from a legitimate company, but then when you really start to look at the URLs and look at the emails, it's from another company. And there's another company that they haven't sent me any emails in a minute, but I was getting ready to contact the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, because I had already told them, don't send me these emails. I already sent them the prayer. And I think out of spite, they just kept sending the emails thinking I was going to respond. At that point, I just started saving the emails. I just started saving. The third way, and probably this seems like a no-brainer, it goes without saying, you never let people know how much money you have. There's a story in the news, and it's about a young man. He took a picture of a whole bunch of money he had, and he was later killed. There's another story about a man in a small town in Georgia. He had won, I guess, lotto, and everybody in his neighborhood knew he had won lotto. And in the world of money, it really wasn't that much money. That money would have run out because he was young, so that money would have been consumed. They killed this man. There was a rapper, can't think of his name right now. He was posting what he was doing on social media, and part of the post involved a lot of money. And he was killed. So people literally found out where he was. They came into the apartment house or whatever and shot him and killed him. If you let people know that you have money, people are going to try to get it. Some people are like that. They see it, they're not going to work for it. They think it's easier just to take your money or kill you or whatever the case may be. But you do not let people know how much money you have. And I would take it a step further. I live a very modest lifestyle. And I live that lifestyle just because of, number one, I have to live it, because I have to live below my means, because in the world of money, I don't make a whole lot of money. But I do it also because I know that when you try to have a lot of things that symbolize wealth, or they become the symbols of wealth, like a luxury car, luxury handbag, that draws attention to certain people. I won't even drive a certain kind of car, because I was telling my daughter, like, look, if people in this neighborhood don't have these luxury cars, I'm not going to drive it. I just keep driving my car because I don't have to. And that's another thing, is when you flash it, you got on all this expensive stuff, whether it's fake or real, you make yourself, or you increase your chances of being a target. You may not have anything, because I found out how people go out of their way to create a facade that they're rich on social media. The people are struggling and they don't have any money, but they're willing, of some kind of way. People, I guess, like watching rich people. I don't know. And so because they find entertainment in seeing people do things that they can't do, it's kind of sick to me. And I think it would mess you up. And by the way, if you're doing that, stop it. And you'll find out how much better you feel. They end up pretending like they have money, because it's like a status symbol. Like, okay, I got money. Well, the objective in life is not to get money. The objective in life is to keep money. If you make 1 million and you spend 1 million, you are broke. If you make 10 million and you spend 10 million, you are broke. And so be careful about trying to flash what you have. The world doesn't need to know if you are filthy rich, if you're rich, if you just wealthy, you doing okay. The world doesn't need to know that. Why? Why would anyone need to know your socioeconomic status? That is personal and that is private, and it can save your life. So let's just recap, because this is going to be a short episode. I'm going to put a couple of articles in the description box. They are reminders, they are warnings that you should not be engaging with scammers and scammers, because these people cannot do anything to you if you don't engage with them. If you don't talk to them, you don't respond, they just cannot do it. And do arm yourself. Now, this is what's deep. The couple, this lady, she threatened the couple to kill the couple. You can't walk in fear. Now, they did the right thing. They went to the police. But you need to get your weapon. You need to get that 38 special, because these people, now this was aggressive. I don't, normally they're not aggressive, but as I said before, several people, y'all, have died, especially elderly people, because of these scammers. And it's just not worth it. Again, I'm not going to try to get into the psychology of why a person would choose to take other people's things rather than work and get their own things. I do know that life is hard. I do know that life is hard in some places. But I still believe in the Most High God. I have an unwavering faith that God is real. I have not had money to the point, I was just telling my daughter, just having a moment of reflection, when I would do a budget. And I remember these days, this was over 20 years ago, but I remember these days when I would have just maybe $5 in my bank account. Though I had days like that. I grew up in a subsidized housing project. I got free lunch all of my childhood. I know what it's like not to have money. I know what it's like to struggle financially. I am a witness that if you will reach out to the Most High God, if you will try to live righteously, and you will seek God for answers and wisdom and guidance and help, and you will surrender to Him, He will give you a way to get money in a righteous and dignified way, where you don't have to steal, you don't have to kill, you don't have to threaten, you don't have to do any of this stuff, because I'm a witness. And I have seen God not just only do it for me, but I know God will do it for other people. But the key is you have to want to do things the right way. You have to show, and you're not going to get away with it, because you've heard this saying before. A lot of people are talking about it now. All money is not good money. And if you get your money through theft, they call it ill-gotten gains. If you get your money through theft and hurting others, killing people, extorting people, you get it through that way, you are not going to keep it. And my prayer, when I do my prayers, I don't just pray against the people who are trying to steal my money. I pray against anybody connected to these people. Because somebody ought to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you know what? There's another way. You don't have to do this. But if you're going to collude with somebody trying to steal my money, I'm asking God to disempower not only you, but your family, your friends, your descendants. It's got to end. Because some of us, and I'm one of those people, I have worked so hard. Even today, as I get older, I'm praying that I can retire in 2 or 3 more years. And really, I'll be working, but I just want to retire from my main job as a teacher, and do other things, and maybe go back to school and finish. I've started so many novels and books and stuff. I want to be able to do some of those things and travel. But I work very hard for my money. Even today, it's hard sometimes with my body changing and aging. But I get on up every morning. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. You're not going to be able to take my money. I won't let you take it. And you don't have to let anybody take your money. And that's what's happening. People are really, I'm using the term, they're taking your money, but really what's happening is people are giving their money away. They're giving it to these people. So recap before we end the episode. Number 1, simply do not talk to strangers. When you get an email, you get a text message, a phone call, a letter, a door knock, whatever you get, you don't respond. You don't engage. You don't have to wonder, what are they doing? Why are they doing it? You didn't create this. You don't have a relationship with them. And this is not your bill. This is not your concern. I believe in, if it's a text message, screenshot it. Some emails I do save now because I want to, contact the FTC, but you don't have to even respond. You just do not talk to strangers. If anybody asks you for money, be suspicious because you're not a bank. If anybody is trying to get you to send them some money, be very suspicious. There are some times when it could be legitimate. There are some times when you can really help people, which I have done, and you need to vet those situations out. But just don't talk to strangers. And number two, never, ever, ever respond by it could they could they a lot of times what they do is they're pretenders. These people are good at what they do, and they will pretend like they are a legitimate company. Well, always vet those numbers. Don't call the numbers back that they give you. You call your bank, the number you've been using. You call your mortgage company. You call. It's so many times when people have gotten their money stolen, and like I say, you need to be suspicious of the bank. You need to be really suspicious because nobody knows if you have money but the bank. But if somebody does call you and it could be legitimate, you always never call back their number. Call back the number that you are familiar with. Call the company directly, and that way you can avoid losing your money or being threatened. And number three, be careful about trying to be flashy. If people think you have money, people thought I had money when I had my business. I didn't have any money. We were struggling. But because we were making good memories. And I loved what I was doing, and people saw that, but we were not making any money. I am not rich. So people might have thought we were successful, and a lot of times people add to that because they're driving a luxury car, they're flashing certain jewelry, certain handbags. Now some people got it. Some people do have money and they can afford to buy expensive things. If you're not around other rich people and you got all this wealth, or you pretending like you got all this wealth, and you're around people who don't have it, you're going to make yourself a target. Now, if everybody's driving a BMW, everybody's driving a Lamborghini or whatever car, luxury car they want, that's different because everybody has it. But a lot of times what I see is people, trying to flash, they got something and they flashing it in front of people who don't have anything at all. And some of those people, that mentality is, I don't have it. I'm not going to work for it. I'm going to take it from you. And over again, this just happens and people get their lives ended. And it's so sad and it's so tragic. Again, be careful about giving away money. It's good to have a charitable heart, and it is good to give away. I believe there are three things you should do with money. Number one, you should always pay your bills because in this country and probably most places in the world, when you are responsible and you pay your bills on time and you do what is right with money, people are more likely to give you money and trust you with money. I do believe that you should always save money. Never, ever, ever spend your money, all of your money. Always save some money. And then I do believe in always giving some money away. Always have a charitable spirit. But you have to be careful because, again, when you give money and people get used to used to receiving your money, they think you have it to give. I know people, most people I know they're in a decent financial situation. They're not really struggling, but they don't have the money to pay their bills and give somebody else money. So that's why it's so critical. And I tell people this, you got to learn how to save your money. It doesn't matter how much you make. If you're making minimum wage, you got to learn how to save 50 cents. If you all you can save is 50 cents and a dollar every time you get paid or once a week, that's what you got to do because it's not a matter of if you're going to have an emergency, it's when. Trust and believe that it's going to be when. So when, and you need to be ready. But if you're giving somebody money all the time, that is an indication that that relationship is about money. Again, there are a lot of romance. I don't get it. Because the moment you ask me for some money, then I already know, no, this is not an interaction. This is not a person I'm going to be having any interaction with. I'm not a bank. So don't give your money away. And if you do decide to share your money, which I do give away money. You just got to know who and what. I give to Doctors Without Borders, the Salvation Army. There's so many people you can give to that are doing good things to help people who cannot help themselves. You have a lot of people who are disabled. You have people who are elderly. They don't have the stamina to work. You have people who they started off, in a bad situation. They got behind. It's hard to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. That's hard to do. People say that, but it's not easy. And just working alone sometimes is not enough. I know people that work really hard. They still can't afford in Atlanta. You just really can't even afford just basic housing because it's so expensive. Because if you made minimum wage, or you just, even if you made like over minimum wage, just to pay for housing, then you got to pay for transportation, food, and water and lights and all these other things, and then put children on top of that. And these are real things. So sometimes people just don't have enough, and you do want to give, but you don't want to give to someone's asking you to misuse your charity and abuse your kind heart. And that's what I deal with sometimes. So I hope that you're safe. Again, if somebody threatens you, call the police. But also, I believe in paperwork and pistols. I pray every day. I don't want to ever get into some kind of confrontation with a person, and it ends like that. But you have to be aware that these people are aggressive. This girl was aggressive. She started threatening the couple because they wouldn't send her the money. And I know the young lady probably needed the money, but oh, I just wish she knew that there were so many other ways she could have gotten money other than trying to scam somebody. And that's what we got to also pray for, is for God to open the heart and the minds of people to know there is another way. And it could be something you never thought of, and God will give you an idea, and then He will bless you. So another thing is, there are 10 people can do the same thing. But when you do it and God has favor on your life, He will bless you to do something and be successful at it. And the 9 other people, not to, put them down, but they may not be able to be successful. But God will bless you when you trust in Him, when you depend upon His guidance and His providence and His authority over your life. He will bless you. You do not have to steal other people's money. And that's what's happening, y'all. People are dying. And talk to your elderly people, like your mothers and your grandmothers. Make them aware, because they grew up in a different generation where people would answer the phone. I don't answer my phone. If you're an unknown, you just don't. I'm not answering. And if you don't leave a message, I'm really not answering. I'm never calling back. I'm not that. Listen, so talk to your elderly people, because they still believe in answering. They may, not know what's happening. They may not be watching some of these stories. I watch a lot of these stories. I used to watch this guy on YouTube. He was one of those people that would catch scammers, and I watched that, but then it made me hyper aware of these people, so I didn't want that always on my mind. But yeah, they tried to get me, and they were unsuccessful by the grace of all. I thank God. By the grace of the Almighty, they were unsuccessful. I've worked very hard, and I know you work hard too for your money. And just remember not to do those 3 things and the other things that we talked about in this episode. Well, peace and abundant blessings to you. Before you go, beautiful people, don't forget to like this video on YouTube and to subscribe to my budding YouTube channel. That helps me, I understand, and allows me to grow my podcast, and this will allow me to produce more content. If this bless you, please like the video. It only takes a couple of seconds, and subscribe. Have a beautiful day. Take care. Bye bye.